Hey basketball fans, are you ready to win real money? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on its rivals, including prize picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like points, rebounds, three-pointers, and more. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Episode 101 of the HabsCulture Podcast. My name is Justin Schwartz, alongside Liam Baum. It is currently 10:10 p.m. on April 3rd. The Canadiens have just defeated the Boston Bruins by a score of 4-1 on home ice. The crowd was electric. The vibes were high. The Canadiens have now won 3 games in a row, defeating the Stanley Cup champions, or former Stanley Cup champions, back-to-back, and then taking on the Bruins, a rival that has their number in the last 10, but put up 3 goals on Jeremy Swayman and put one extra one in the empty net to make it 4 goals to defeat them in that one. As everything stands right now, Liam, the Canadiens have 81 points in 75 games, so 7 games remaining there. The Rangers, 79 points in 75 games, and the Columbus Blue Jackets playing tonight. Their game is just about to expire, but they currently have 77 points in 73 games. And when you tack on this loss to Colorado, where they're down right now by a large margin, that's going to be 77. Thank you. That's 77 points in 74 games.
Yeah.
So as it stands right now, the Canadiens hold down that second wildcard spot. The Senators got the best of the Lightning tonight by a score of 2-1. So they're still up 5 points on the Habs with the same amount of games played. So we could probably scratch off the idea of that end up being a possibility for that first wildcard spot.
Yeah.
But before we get into that conversation, Liam, based off where they're at right now with 7 games remaining, what's your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 that they make the playoffs?
I don't want to be too cocky, but right now it's really looking up, and I'm not gonna, make an early assumption that they are locked in, but if they continue to play the way they are right now in the last 3 games, they're making me feel very confident. And I know any team can go into a slump at any point in the season, but based on our schedule, based on the last 3 games, they're riding the momentum. They're hot right now. I love their chances. I think with Columbus, Detroit, the Islanders, and so on falling off, our real competition right now is going to be the Rangers, and we just got to hope that they go a little bit cold and the teams they play against are going to have the better of them in those games. So I love Montreal's chances right now. It's been absolutely unreal to watch. The last 3 games have been amazing, and going back to the game against the Panthers 2 nights ago, you think the game is over, 10 seconds left. Just the puck is bouncing in the Habs direction right now. They're getting the lucky bounces, and that's what you need to win. So once again, I'm loving it. I think the Habs are going to get it done, and I think we were due to put on this hat tonight, finals hat, going back. It's time to get into the playoffs, so I'm loving it. What are your thoughts?
I think the city is a much more fun place when the Montreal Canadiens are winning hockey games, and I think that the truth of the matter is that the Canadiens right now might not be the strongest team on paper, but they definitely play with a different type of culture and demeanor, truthfully, when the playoffs are near. And I think that it's nice to know that they're competitive, and more than competitive at this point. Way more competitive than we could have probably hoped for in this season. And I think that that's a testament to how this team has gelled and gone through the ups and downs. Because I think, I don't know, this is my opinion. I think this season has been interesting because the Canadiens have gone on stretches where they've lost a ton of games and then they've won a ton of games, and then they've gone on like a 5-game losing streak here or 3-game winning streak here. But I think it's that perseverance that has really surprised me, because I think it's very easy to get down. I think it's very easy to say, we're down and out. But very, very impressed with this group. I think that also speaks volume to Martin St. Louis as a coach, and the fact that I think we gave him the benefit of the doubt more times than not, and now it's kind of coming to fruition. So I really do think that this team on paper might not be the strongest, but I also do believe that they can pretty much put up a fight with any team in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. There was a stat that I saw the other day. They're like the 4th best team in the league versus their own division. And obviously the Atlantic is one of the better divisions in the league. And they have like a 60% winning rate against teams above 500. So they're able to compete with any team in the league, like you said. And going back to the fan and the momentum that they're riding, like you talked about, having the fans behind them is like a 6th player on the ice. It's something that a lot of other teams don't experience, whether they're a small market or their fans just aren't as passionate as Canadiens fans, because as we know, that Habs fans are the most passionate in the game. But when you're in the Bell Center and you're the opposing team just getting absolutely shredded and just not cheered for at all, it's like the ice is tilted towards your direction. So I think when the Habs are behind, when the fans are behind the Canadiens, it's like a superpower. And no matter who's on the ice, they're able to compete. And I think this also pays testament to the 4th line having so much success right now, matching up against maybe some better players in the league, but guys like Gallagher and Dvorak and Anderson and even Evans, Armia, they're coming through at the right time. And I think that's what they need to continue to do if they want to get into the playoffs and even go on a little bit of a run, because I really don't think that's out of the possibility.
I was going to mention something to you here, Liam. I made this comment earlier tonight, but I want to hear what you have to think, or what you have to say, excuse me. Right now, it's looking like, and we talked about this on the last episode, and it still stands. If the Canadiens get in as the second wild card, they will play the Washington Capitals, as they have a 9-point lead on any other team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Here's my take. If the Canadiens get in and play the Washington Capitals, I think at the very worst, they end up the series is 2-2 going into game 5. Because I just personally don't see a world where, look, we've seen them lose games in their own building before, right? In the playoffs. But this is going back to a time when I think the expectations were a little bit higher. And I think right now, the expectations throughout the season have really, like I mentioned before, fluctuated a lot. Sometimes, I think at times we were like, they took a step back compared to last year. Now all of a sudden they're a playoff team. All of a sudden Layden Hudson's looking like he's a lock for the Calder Trophy. Laine's a power play god. I mean, Nick Suzuki has 81 points on the season so far, which is the most in a while. Like, there's so many things trending in the right direction that I think people weren't necessarily expecting, or they were. I think the expectation might have been a little bit too high, but here we are. Yeah. And you look at the Caps, last 10, they're 5-4-1. That's not a bad record. But 5-4-1 is not the standard for where they've been this whole season, right?
And not to mention, they lose to teams like Buffalo, and I mean, Carolina is in their division, but still a team that should be worse than them. They shouldn't be losing 5-1, right? Logan Thompson is a huge reason why they've had so much success, and he's clearly in a cold streak right now. So
and he's actually injured. He left last game also. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, if there's any time to want to match up or a specific team to play against in the playoffs, I feel like the Canadiens are in the right spot, but they're controlling their destiny, and they need to pounce on the opportunity they have in order to get into the playoffs. Because, like I mentioned last episode, history repeats itself. 2010, Montreal was the 8th seed coming in against the Capitals as a 1st seed, and they won in 6 games. So I like it. The Canadiens are a deep team, and like you said, the expectation wasn't super high in this coming into this season, but I think that makes the story even better and gets the fans even more behind the team, because it's like that Cinderella story. Like, you're not expecting a team like this to make the playoffs. I don't think either of us even had them close at all. I think in your regular season standing predictions, you had them like fifth in the division, maybe
Yeah,
fourth.
and I think it was a pretty optimistic take.
Yeah,
at the
and
time.
we probably got ripped on too for that. So Habs culture has the best takes in the game, I guess.
There you go. Don't add us. But I mean, just to give you a little bit of a news update, Liam. I mean, not that this wasn't pretty much confirmed already, but the Blue Jackets did lose that game. So that's 77 points in 74 games for them. And another point that I wanted to make is that we're talking about the Caps maybe being an easier matchup, quote unquote. I also think that, look, personally, the second, the first wild card team, which is, let's just say for right now, is going to be the Senators, is going to play one of the Leafs, the Lightning, or the Panthers. Right? Because right now, that would be a good matchup. I think it would be fun. I think it would be, and I think it would be the most meaningful. Like, meaningful in the sense that there's, it's like the Battle of Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
something
then
in
Battle
itself.
of Florida.
True. Also true. But I think my point that I was trying to make is that the Leafs have 96 points. The Lightning have 93. The Panthers have 92. It's a tight race for first in the Atlantic. But I do think that all those teams, and I feel like this might just be a common take, are better than Washington. Like, I think that every single one of those teams can take Washington in a 7-game series. So it just goes to show that this wild card spot in this position that we're in is that, I'm not going to say that we're hoping that the Sens win, but I'm almost saying that. I almost feel like let them win their games, and we'll keep winning our games. I mean, again, it's not up to us, but for the people that are saying, "Oh, we're still 5 back for the Sens, we should try and catch them," like, I don't know if that's the right ideology.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go all the way, you got to play the best teams, but you also want to set yourself up in the best position you could be in. I think New Jersey is a team that's heavily fallen off with, I mean, considering Ottawa is 1 point back from New Jersey now, and New Jersey was sitting at the top of the league for most of the year until Dougie went down and Jack Hughes did. So, I mean, we're going to do our predictions for the playoffs once the time comes, but Carolina, New Jersey is basically, a locked-in matchup. I think Carolina sweeps them. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me how New Jersey can even compete anymore, which is why it would be ideal for, like, if we're looking at the Atlantic, the Toronto, Tampa, and Florida are better than Washington and Carolina, right? So for all those who don't know, if Montreal were to make the second wildcard spot, they would play Washington in the first round, and then the winner of Carolina and New Jersey, who I still think are worse than Tampa, Florida, or Toronto. So that's why Justin's saying this is the most ideal position for the Canadiens to be in.
Right. And just to kind of give you an even, like, let's dive into it for a second. We look at the Washington Capitals. You talked about their goalie play. We also talked about the fact that Logan Thompson is not, at this moment, he's day-to-day, but he's not currently healthy. If you look at the last 10 games played for each of their goalies, which they've pretty much split throughout the season, but you got to assume that Logan Thompson's the starter at the end of the day. Yeah. Logan Thompson started 6 of the last 10. Charlie Lindgren has started 4. Logan Thompson, his last 6, in his last 6 games, has gone 3-2-1 with an 8.71 save percentage and a 3.38 GAA. And then you have Charlie Lindgren, 4 games started. He's 2-2-0 with an 8.90 save percentage and a 2.81 GAA. So if we go back to, like, we're practicing what we preach here, a hot goalie, a good goalie puts you over the top, but a hot goalie kind of could win you a ship or win you a championship.
For sure.
And I just think that right now, this really gives me vibes of that one year where Tampa got in and they killed the league. They had the most points in the league and they locked that up, but they cruised in so lightly that Columbus just absolutely trounced on them the second the playoffs started, because it was almost too easy. And I think the Caps, the fact that we're saying that they're 9 points up on any other team in the Eastern Conference is a big, I think I said this last time, Liam. Like I said, if I'm Spencer Carberry, I'm ensuring that every single game from here until the end of the season, the last 7 games of the season are treated like a playoff game.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way that they're playing right now.
Yeah, and you got to assume that they're probably going to sit a couple guys towards the end of the year. And I mean, although that's good to keep your guys healthy, it's, you're still trying to instill the playoff mentality. And if you're sitting guys, then, you take a couple games off, you're not into it right away. So, I mean, all that to say, the Canadiens still need to win out their games and get into that spot. But I think Justin and I both agree that being in that second wildcard spot and being on the Metro Division side of the playoff bracket is ideal for the Canadiens. One thing I want to bring up, and this is completely switching the topic and definitely a hot take, but the Hart Trophy is the league's voted the player that's voted the most valuable to their team, right? Not
Sure.
the MVP of the league. It's whoever's most valuable to their team.
I think, are there not 2?
There's 2. There's is it Ted Lindsay? I think it's Ted Lindsay. One is voted by, it doesn't matter. One is voted by players and one is voted by whatever, the media.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's Leon Draisaitl who's having an outstanding year, Nathan McKinnon and Connor Hellebuck. But when are we going to talk about Nick Suzuki being in the Hart race? If we're talking about a team who was destined to be a bottom 5 and talked about to be a bottom 5 team all year, no playoff hopes, nothing really going for them coming into this season, but Nick Suzuki puts the team on his back alongside of his teammates. But obviously Nick Suzuki is the biggest name and the guy who's completely changed the Canadiens' perspective this season. Where are you ranking him among some of these MVP favorites or players who are most valuable to their team? Because I like to think of the Hart Trophy as somebody who's the reason why a team has success, whether that's a Kirill Kaprizov, whether that's, I don't know, Connor Hellebuck, obviously. But the Oilers have, Draisaitl. They've got McDavid. The Avs have McKinnon, and alongside of him, it's Makar. But Suzuki doesn't have a guy like that with him. So my question to you is, where are you ranking Nick Suzuki among these guys?
So just for context, like you mentioned, the Hart Memorial Trophy is awarded annually to the player determined to be the most valuable to his National Hockey League team during the regular season. So that's what you gave as a definition. The poll is chosen. The winner is chosen through a poll of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. So the Hart is chosen by the hockey writers, but there is one voted by the players, like you mentioned. But I'm kind of delaying to answer your question because I think it's tough when there's like this preconceived notion that comes with the trophy, because yes, there is Leon Draisaitl in Edmonton, but like my question to you is it all based on circumstance? Because this year McDavid has missed a decent amount of games and he also hasn't performed to the level that he has been expected to. And yet here we are, Leon Draisaitl performing at a level that most people probably thought that he couldn't without McDavid. Now, I'm just taking that as an example because I think it is based on circumstance. But to actually answer your question, I think that there's an easy argument if we're going based off the definition that he would be in the top 15.
Oh, I'm thinking top 5.
100%.
I'll give you some names. Let me throw you out some names. You tell me if Nick Suzuki is more valuable to their team than this player. This season, obviously. Nikita Kucherov.
No.
Nathan McKinnon.
No.
Leon Draisaitl.
No.
Jack Eichel. This is where it gets iffy.
Yeah, okay. I would say I'll say it's close this season, but I will say yes this season.
Okay, Mitch Marner.
Ooh, I would say no.
I would say,
but
no
again,
as well.
based on circumstance. Wait, you're saying Marner's more valuable?
No, I'm saying Nick Suzuki's more valuable.
See, I think Marner's still more valuable this year.
The thing is,
look at the season Tavares having.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nylander 40 goals.
I know.
Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
Kyle Connor is more valuable, or Nick Suzuki's more valuable?
Nick Suzuki is more valuable than Kyle Connor.
Okay. This season, Connor McDavid.
This season, no. Suzuki's more valuable to his team than Connor McDavid this season.
And then Cale Makar. Like, I don't think Nathan McKinnon wins it over Cale Makar, right?
Right, but I would still take Cale Makar as more valuable to his team. Again, you take Cale Makar off that team, what happens, right?
Yeah, you take Nick Suzuki off the team.
Hellebuck.
Yeah, Hellebuck's there, and then it's like we're getting in a range of guys like Pasta. Sure,
I mean, yeah,
higher. I'd rather Pasta than Mitch Marner or Jack Eichel. I think they're more valuable to the team.
Right, but more valuable to what though? Because here we're looking at a Boston Bruins team that's bottom of the division.
Right.
So that matters too, and I think that actually speaks more to your point because if you look at it, the Habs are in a second wild card, but then like, because okay, if I look to the other end of the league, you look at the West. St. Louis is currently in a second wild card spot. The Flames are 7 points out. It's not looking good for them, but. Like Minnesota stands there. They've kind of stayed stagnant, but you could say like Kaprizov. I would even say Kaprizov this season is probably still more valuable than Suzuki.
The problem is he's played 37 games. I don't even know if he qualifies for it.
Sure, 100%. I'm just saying that in those games, like again, you're right. But like
yes. Kaprizov to me was a runaway Hart winner because that team, it was first in the league for a short stint, and he's the reason why. And obviously he comes out of the lineup, you see the effect. But all that, I just wanted to show you that Suzuki is closer to top 10, top 5 than you might think he is in a Hart Trophy finalist.
I'm just curious as the way that they look at it because is it relative? Is it based on circumstance? Like if you look at a team like Dallas that's second in the Central, I mean they have Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, Jake Ottinger, like they have. Mikko Rantanen. Like they have guys, and the truth is that it's always easy to say that if one is performing at a high level, that they have these other guys to play with. But I don't know if that's fair because then we would never, by those standards, ever give it to
obviously
a player that's on a good team.
Yeah, because obviously that's not the best argument because McDavid and Draisaitl have won it multiple times, and McKinnon won it too, and Kucherov, I don't know if he's won it, but
and so did Matthews.
Yeah, so it's just to me, it's not clear how this trophy is decided. It seems like it's more of a points.
Which sucks.
Which does suck because a guy like Nick Suzuki is going to have a career year and probably around 90 points. Is pretty much the biggest reason why the Canadiens are sitting in a wild card spot. Like you're telling me if you take yes, McKinnon is. You take him off the team, they're not a team. Like they're not in the playoffs. Probably you take Draisaitl off, who this year they're probably not. But like, I feel like Tampa's good enough that they would be able to make the playoffs without Kucherov.
It's definitely up for debate. Like I don't think it's crazy, but again, you're 100. Okay. I have a question for you because I think that's a very interesting conversation to have. But the one that I'm a little bit more interested in, it made me think, and and this actually irks me. Okay, we're talking about Hart right now. And we're talking about the fact that Suzuki should probably be considered in some extent, even though we know that realistically, maybe he'll get a vote. Who knows? Maybe a third vote, whatever the case may be. What actually, Liam, I'm gonna use this. What pisses me off is that when I was curious. Yesterday I was curious. Oh, like who's in the runner-up for Selke? The Selke Trophy. The best two-way forward. Who's having the best two-way season? We know that Nick Suzuki at both ends of the ice is absolutely dominant. And he's proving it this year with 81 points. He'll probably finish close to 90. And I'm looking at the list right now, Liam, on a given sportsbook, just for fun. He's not in the top 12.
Who's second out of curiosity? Because we all know Barkov. It's Barkov's trophy.
Barkov, I'll give you a list in order. You're going to lose it. Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Nico Hischier, Leon Draisaitl, Mitch Marner, Anthony Cirelli, Mark Stone, Seth Jarvis, Brandon Hagel, Jordan Stahl, Anze Kopitar, Jack Eichel. What am I missing here? Like, are we watching the same guy play hockey? And this is purely unbiased because we're talking about Hart right now. And again, we know that he's not going to win the Hart Trophy, but there's a case to be made based off of the actual standard.
Like,
What is
am I
this?
not watching enough Carolina Hurricanes games to see Jordan Staal be a third liner defensive genie? Yeah, no, he's obviously so good defensively. He's not playing against another first line. He's playing against Dvorak. How hard is
Like,
it to defend him?
the
Like, I know.
Frank J. Selke Trophy is an annual award given by the National Hockey League to the forward who best excels in the defensive aspect of the game.
By the way, Jordan Staal was a finalist last year, I think, or 2 years ago.
But how are we not talking about him in the top 12?
Yeah, see, that's ridiculous.
Anyway,
to me.
whatever. I'm trying to make that make sense, because to me it doesn't make sense. Barkov should obviously win, and there's no doubt that he's the best defensive forward in the league right now. But the fact that we're not even he's not even in the conversation is crazy. But that's where I wanted to go with that.
I feel like Suzuki's up for a lot of trophies that he could easily be nominated for, but he's just not. Like, Selke for sure. Like, again, Hart would be outstanding, but I know it's not a trophy, but Iron Man streak is crazy. Like, this guy is
he doesn't miss a game.
in.
Knock on wood.
Crazy. Yeah, knock on wood, please. But
yeah.
Anyways, I just wanted to point out the fact that Nick Suzuki is so valuable to this team, and such a huge reason why a team like this is sitting in the spot they are right now.
In other news, we'll move on. We'll go for a few more minutes here. Alex Ovechkin, three away from passing Wayne Gretzky's goal record, 2 to tie. And they have 7 games left as well. So the OV watch has been on, and it is officially even more on than
now it's really
than
official.
ever. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the guy literally broke his leg, and we're here talking about the fact that he has 35 plus goals.
39, I think. No.
Like
39,
that's
30. I think
he has 30
39.
39. Yeah. 39 and 59 games too.
Did you see the box, like the loge at the Carolina Hurricanes game, like who was in it for Ovechkin?
No.
There was like a whole posse with him. It was like Gary Bettman and a bunch of reporters.
Really?
And yeah, and Ovi scored that goal. Gary Bettman's like on his phone. He's like, he doesn't even realize he scored. Such a tool.
My God.
But it's really cool. I really hope he does break it this season. It would be kind of devastating if he doesn't. But
okay. Yeah.
The one thing I want to say is he cannot break it on an empty net goal or a game where they're down 5-0. Like, Ovi would obviously make it hype.
It's so weird. It's so
imagine,
weird, but
like,
okay.
An OT goal? Oh, it'd be so
yeah. It has to happen in some sort, like, or on the power play. Like, it has to happen like that. But I mean, I'm looking at their opponents right now for the rest of the season, and like, there's no single team that I would be like, not that it really matters which team he breaks it against. Oh, you know what though? Dude. Okay, I'm going to read to you. No, listen to this. This is the rest of their season, okay? Chicago, New York, the Islanders, Carolina, Columbus, the Islanders again, and they finish the season in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
if you break it against Ovi in the last game of against Crosby in the last game of the season, like, I know it wouldn't be it. And also, does it have to be at home? Like, again, like, we're acting as if he could just, I'm not going to score.
Yeah, no. Wait, did you say it was in Pittsburgh?
It's in Pittsburgh. If it was in Washington, it would have been crazy.
Amazing. I mean, just listening to those matchups, I think against Chicago he gets 2, and then he breaks it against
bench him like
I think he breaks it this season, and I think he's getting. Is it crazy to say he hits 900 this year?
What is he at right now?
892.
What's it? 8? I mean, at the rate that he's scoring, it's incredible.
He's averaging 0.64 goals per game. So by that statistic, he should break it in 3 games or less. No,
I mean, I think it's doable. And his matchups,
6
his matchups aren't like, they're not too strong. So I do think that's definitely not out of the question. But why don't we look at a couple things to round this out? Habs stats and schedule for the upcoming 3 games. So stats, Nick Suzuki, which is not updated. So this might.
Are we looking at the last 3 games?
I was just going to look at on the season just to give a like whatever a roundup here. But again, they're not updated, so it's kind of bothering me. But Nick Suzuki now is at 81 points in 75 games. Cole Caulfield had 1 point tonight, so he's at 65 in 75. Lane Hudson, no points tonight for Lane.
None for Lane tonight.
So he's at 62 and 75. And I think we can confidently say that he ran away, like I mentioned at the top, with the Calder Trophy. I don't think Mitchkov had a nice little stretch. Would have been very interesting to see what he could do without Tortorella as his bench boss, because he's been on an absolute tear. But I think kind of things have, fizzled out for Mitchkov, Celebrini, and Wolf, and has left it up to Lane Hudson. Uri Slavkovsky gets a point tonight.
One thing I just want to say quickly, Slavkovsky averaging more points per game than last year. So the progression continues to go up year by year, and still 21 years old. We always talked about Slav a lot this season, but it's nice to see. I hope he hits 50 points. I really do. He's at 48 in 72. And he has 7 games to get to 50. But also one thing that pops out to me here, Liam, which is so funny to me, and I know that we can't chalk up plus minus to an individual stat, like it's more of a team stat. We know that. But sometimes there's outliers, and sometimes outliers are cool to look at. It's just so funny to me that I look down this list and there's so many guys that are minus, and rightfully so. I mean, again, the Habs goal differential in the season, if I'm not mistaken, is minus 22, despite being in a playoff spot. However, Nick Suzuki plus 12. Cole Caulfield plus 7. No. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So that's the correct. Yeah, if you want you. And plus, if you do you have all the numbers in front of you, or is it just?
Yeah, I have all the numbers.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just because I was looking at it and I see Laine minus 13, Gallagher minus 7. I see Jake Evans minus 3, Dvorak minus 6, Matheson minus 9. I know that they're not updated. Alex Newhook minus 21. Like
Kirby,
we're talking about all these
29.
guys. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I didn't even want to say it because it was so embarrassing. But I mean, look at the fact that Suzuki's a plus 14. Like, how does that not speak to the Selke in a little bit?
Yeah, and I think looking at plus minus if you're an outlier on your team, then I feel like it's relevant to look at. If you're, if everybody's a plus 30, then, obviously that's a team statistic. But again, like you said, Nick Suzuki's a plus 14 on a team where guys are minus 20. So definitely an outlier. Caulfield as well, plus 8 now, and Slav carrying his own plus 1. And even if you want to talk about it, Lane Hudson minus 5. If you want to get really into detail, I think he's a minus 10 with empty netters, so really not a big deal, and does not speak to how he plays defense in his own end either. So I think that was a good point to bring up.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so interesting. But now Brendan Gallagher up to 19 on the season. Would be awesome if he could crack 20.
Amazing, yeah. 10 points in his last 9 games.
Great feel-good story.
Yeah.
Of course, the guy that I'm playing in fantasy has him, but that's fine. If it's for the greater good of the squad.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Canadiens' upcoming schedule, and let's give our predictions too.
Okay, so 3 games on the docket. 2 this weekend, 1 on Tuesday. The Habs still at home against Philly on April 5th. In that game, the last time they played, they lost 6-4 in Philly. Dobish was in nets. Then fast forward to April 6th, another 7 p.m. start in Nashville, though. Nashville currently struggling heavily. So we'll see about that one. And then Tuesday, April 8th, back in Montreal against Detroit. So an Atlantic Division opponent. Liam, Philly, Nashville, Detroit. Just record.
Win,
right
win,
off
win.
The top.
Win, win, win.
Win, win, win.
And Dobish gets...
I was about to say. Nashville?
Dobish gets Nashville. They need to bounce back against Philly. They're going to do it. Nashville, they're coming in off a nice win against Philly. They're going to get it done in Nashville. And then Detroit, I think that's going to be a movie of a game. Going back to last year, the 2 games against Detroit to close out the year were absolutely insane. I think it's going to be a shootout. Give me the Habs. Win, win, win. And they're going to create some cushion between them and the New York Rangers, who are going to lose. And I feel
I like the prediction.
Yeah, give us yours.
I agree. I agree. Okay, I know it's no, it's not biased because I mean, Philly's not particularly strong. Nashville's not strong at all. And Detroit will be a good matchup. But again, I think that there's so much on the line for the Canadiens right now that I don't see a world where they lose. The only chance that I see them losing is that if Dobish really comes in cold and somehow, look, like Philly chased him for 6, like, or 5.
Dobish,
They didn't.
Monty started the game.
Right. So Dobish finished the game.
Yeah.
No, Dobish started that one against Philly. When he led in the early one on Michkov, 5-hole.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He started that game. I don't know if he finished it, but
so who the game against
it was
Blues.
Against St. Louis the game before.
Yeah.
So 2 days before. But I don't know. I think that they win these 3. I think that there's a lot on the line. I think they just beat Florida twice, which is a feat in itself. They took Boston at home when they're notoriously not great against them. I think that they're playing with something to prove. There's 7 games down the stretch. Now, if we're going to predict 3 wins in a row here, that's great and all. But the games that are after that, and I don't want to predict, I don't want to go too in depth on them, but we'll leave it at this. Ottawa in Ottawa. Toronto in Toronto. Then round out the season, April 14th, Montreal v Chicago in Montreal. April 16th, Montreal v Carolina in Montreal. Like, if we're predicting the first 3 as wins, what do you think the record is for the last 4?
I think the Sens game is going to be a tough one.
Crazy game.
In Ottawa especially, and they're relatively they're not that hot, but they've been good. And then against the Leafs in Toronto, I think they're going to steal that one, to be honest. I think they will. They might get dominated, but I like it. And then coming back against Chicago, who knows? We lose to Chicago. I don't even know why. But
I feel like if you lose to Chicago, then you might as well just scrap your season because that just doesn't show urgency at all.
It's just the team that gets to us. I feel like that used to be the Sabres. Every time we'd play the Sabres in 2015, they'd beat us. But I just want to quickly talk about the Rangers matchups because they don't have an easy schedule. Next 2 games for them, Devils in New Jersey, then Tampa in New York, and then Philly, but that's next Wednesday. But they play Devils, Tampa. That's 2 tough ones. I mean, I know I bashed on the Devils, but it's not like they're not a playoff team right now. So the Rangers
things are looking up.
They got to be strong. Looking up. Yeah, they got to be strong if they want to stay in this race. I mean, obviously, it's great for the fans to see a nice close race, but as a Habs fan, I'd much rather see them get that spot locked up.
Things are looking up, Liam. I'm excited. And honestly, I think you guys should be too, especially you that have made it's late. You guys that have made it to the 36-minute mark, because if the Habs continue playing hockey, we put out more content. And I think that, tell you one thing right now, our playoff content is unmatched. Backtrack to 2021.
Yeah.
I don't think that there was a hotter, don't go look. That's the first thing. But I don't think that there was a hotter podcast on the market. Wow, I'm really struggling right now. But nonetheless, I mean, jokes aside, I do think it would be very fun, not only as a fan, but I think it would also be fun for the league. And I do think that a first round matchup, despite the end result, as long as they can make it competitive, I mean, we didn't even expect them to be here. So that's all we can really ask for. Yeah. But do you have anything? Do you have anything left to say, Liam?
I have nothing left to say. All I want to say, so I guess I do have something left to say. When we come back in about a week, I want to be able to safely say that the Canadiens are 4 points ahead of the New York Rangers. That's all I want to say.
I really do think that they win the next 3. Like, I'm confident. I don't think that those teams are scary.
Let's say the Rangers win 1. That'd be a nice 6-point, 8-point. No, math isn't mathing right now.
So if we get 6,
a 2-point gap right now. We'd get 6. They'd get 1. So that would be a 6-point gap.
I mean, that would be pretty comfortable. And I feel like at that point, we would, I don't think we'd have a problem saying that the Canadiens are looking up. But again, you never know. Every game matters down the stretch. And they've got to play like it. But so far, so good on that front.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that for episode 101. Always a pleasure, Liam. Good time. Hopefully, we'll be back with a smile on our face, and hopefully we'll be still wearing that same hat and no jinx. But
exactly.
We'll keep
praying
it at that.
to the hockey gods right now. Just
And I think the hockey
let them
god,
in.
I think they want them in. I would think they want them in because without them in, you don't get the marketing and you don't get the branding and you don't get
Quote it.
everything that comes with the Montreal
playoff
Canadiens being
hockey.
in the playoffs. Exactly. Because
It's gonna
that's the
be a
epitome.
movie. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, again, I'll say we'll leave it at that for the 5th time. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure. And we'll catch you guys next week.